After a while, the teacher sat eating his lunch when a man approached, holding out a cigarette. It was Sawyer, who felt he needed to show gratitude for being allowed to attend classes without paying any tuition. Indeed, in such a place, a cigarette was not something easily obtained. Over the shared cigarette, the two quickly became friends. Sawyer learned much from the teacher about the former technological civilization, the current state of the world, and the secrets of the fortress. The teacher explained that the rich built these fortresses to exploit refugees like them. As long as the wilderness remained dangerous, the refugees had no choice but to depend on these fortresses for survival, ensuring a continuous supply of cheap labor for the fortress's tycoons. Sawyer showed an eager thirst for knowledge, and it was clear that the teacher had stories of his own. Time flew, and soon it was time for the afternoon class. As the class bell rang, the teacher cleared his throat and said, "Today, we're going to talk about survival skills. You're all nearly adults and must learn to protect yourselves." He then posed a question. What would you do if you encountered a wolf pack in the wild? Pointing to Sawyer, he invited him to answer. Slightly surprised to be called upon as an auditor, Sawyer replied, trying to sound expert, "We should choose a high point with a clear view, ideally near wind and water." The teacher nodded in approval, but as Sawyer continued, "Because such a location makes for good feng shui for a gravesite," the mood shifted. The teacher's face clouded over and the classroom fell silent, everyone staring at Sawyer, puzzled why the lesson seemed off track. Sawyer thought he was teaching correctly, wondering why the mission wasn't completed. Perhaps the palace required that everyone truly understand his point? As the teacher coughed awkwardly, Sawyer quickly explained, "Sir, you might not have seen the wolves outside. Even a lone wolf is dangerous, let alone a pack. If you encounter them, you might as well pick out a gravesite." After a moment of thought, the teacher seemed to accept Sawyer's logic. "From now on, you'll sit in the classroom and you'll teach the survival lessons," he announced. Sawyer, shocked, gestured to himself in disbelief. "Are you serious? Me teach?" "Thank you, sir," Sawyer replied, excited yet overwhelmed, as the mission system confirmed completion. Mission accomplished. Reward, strength. Suddenly, Sawyer felt a surge of power within him. He realized that the power system was not an illusion but a real ability he possessed. He started to calculate the new strength he had gained, thinking about how this could benefit his hunting in the wilderness. As he thought, a grin of delight spread across his face. After school, as he and Atticus were walking home, Atticus suddenly asked, "So the teacher just lets you attend classes and now wants you to teach. Does he want you to be his successor?" Scratching his cheek, Sawyer responded skeptically, "I doubt that. He's probably just out of cigarettes." Atticus looked baffled, finding it hard to follow his brother's thoughts. Sawyer then made a face, jokingly suggesting, "How about when I become the teacher? I'll hand the position over to you." "I don't want to be any teacher. The wilderness is where I belong," Atticus replied. Atticus watched Sawyer's retreating back with a worried expression. Sawyer always wanted to save the best for him. However, Atticus also longed to do something for his brother. Soon they were walking home hand in hand when they encountered a group of armed soldiers, apparently mercenaries. As they brushed past, Sawyer overheard them talking about heading into the mountains in search of someone named Wang Fugi to guide them. Sawyer knew all too well what the mountains entailed. These mercenaries, lacking real combat experience, were practically marching to their deaths. Just as the last person in the group passed by, Sawyer turned sharply to see a woman in a black jacket and a duckbill cap, her age indiscernible, a distinct presence among the group. Moreover, this girl exuded a wildness akin to that of a beast, a feeling all too familiar to Sawyer. His instincts told him she was not to be underestimated. He cautioned Atticus, "Stay away from these people. They're not what they seem." Upon returning home, Scarlett noticed the injury Sawyer had sustained from the sparrow and expressed concern. As they spoke, a noisy commotion erupted outside. Peeking out, they saw Wang Fuguai with the mercenaries. Fuguai was boasting to the sergeant. "Apart from being a bit quirky, Sawyer is one of the best hunters around here." Sawyer was shocked that Fuguai actually introduced him to the mercenaries, and he certainly did not want to accompany them to their likely demise. As the group called out for Sawyer at his doorstep, he instructed Atticus, "Don't panic, just watch me handle this." Confidently stepping out, Sawyer quickly grabbed Fugui's hand, exclaiming, "Congratulations, Mr. Wang. A safe delivery of a baby boy, 6.6 pounds. This bizarre congratulation left everyone baffled, and the sergeant glared at Fuguai, fuming. "Is this the small problem you mentioned? Is this really just a minor issue? Do you know the consequences of deceiving us?" The sergeant stormed off angrily. The shopkeeper, now in trouble, looked helplessly at Sawyer, who swiftly followed the sergeant to explain. Meanwhile, the mysterious girl glanced back at Sawyer, their keen intuitions possibly making each aware of the other's shrewdness. Suddenly, the palace system chimed in, offering Sawyer a chance to randomly learn a skill, firearm expertise from the mercenaries. To learn or not to learn, isn't it foolish not to? Sawyer thought. As he agreed, a flood of firearms knowledge, from schematics to maintenance, filled his mind. Is it really possible to acquire others' abilities? He wondered aloud as the system confirmed the successful learning of advanced firearms expertise. Still intrigued by the mysterious girl, Sawyer queried the system about her level of expertise in firearms. Perfect level. This revelation deepened his thoughts about the mercenaries' upcoming venture into the mountains, hinting at complexities he could not yet fathom. Meanwhile, Atticus tugged at Sawyer's sleeve, half joking, half serious. "Bro, why do you keep ogling like you're watching a movie?" Just then, a figure emerged from a nearby hut. It was Scarlett. "We're neighbors now," she said sweetly. "I swapped houses with a family here." Atticus leaned in and whispered teasingly to Sawyer, "Bro, you're still a virgin, right?"